God puts us in nations, in places, not by mistake, but to do a job. What if we opened our eyes to the needs of our colleagues, of our leaders, of our subordinates, and we were a priest on their behalf? Welcome to the Repurposing Business Podcast. My name is Brett Johnson.
And I'm Lynn Johnson.
And we're going to be talking about how to get our business into God's business. Our subtext is Let My Business Go, and we'll have guests from around the world. So thank you for joining us this week and every week on the Repurposing Business Podcast. Well, welcome to the Repurposing Business Podcast. My name is Brett Johnson.
And I'm Lynn Johnson.
And we have the delight of having a wonderful couple from South Africa with us. We have Meyer and Annalien, sometimes known as Miss Linky Blignaut. But have we cancelled the Miss Linky now?
I'm the only one who's allowed to say that.
Yeah, so Annalien, fantastic. Good to have you guys with us. Yeah. And you are such a seriously old married couple now. How long have you been married for?
Oh, we got married on the 25th of November 2017. So we just celebrated our third year and we're in our fourth year now. So yeah, you can say we've been through some seasons.
Yeah. Now we had the privilege of staying with Annalien's parents and some years ago, it was back in 2016, 2017, a time leading up to when you guys got married, and had the privilege of marrying you. I noticed Meyer recently conducted a wedding and he had no jacket on. Oh no, it was no tie. Is that right?
Yeah, no jacket, tie.
Yeah, and I had to be nicely dressed for your wedding in the hot sun. So yeah, I don't know if we have double standards here. Yeah.
It's whatever the bride and groom want, that's what you have to dress in.
That is the standard.
I was the best man as well. So it was like I was doing
Fantastic. Yeah, well, it's so exciting. But I know that sometimes leading up to the decision to get married is not always an easy decision. And so perhaps we can talk through that. What was easy? What was not so easy? What did you have to press through to get there? And along the way, we'll pick up some tips for people. So why don't we go back into your stories a little bit?
When did you first meet each other? Because I think that was quite a long time ago.
So we met, I was maybe like 10 years old and Annalien was 8. And I had a friend and he's an Afrikaans guy. His name was Ivan. And then she was friends with his younger sister called Natasha. So I would go over to my friend to go and play. And then he had, there was these like annoying younger sister and her friends that we would like, didn't like them at all, and like do pranks on them and things like that. So that's where I met Annalien. And then when we got older, I was around 13 or 14. I became really good friends with her brother, Yaku. So just by me being friends with Yaku, I got to know Annalien. So I basically knew Annalien my whole life. So we knew each other our whole lives. So yeah.
Yeah. And Annalien, did you also think he was an irritating little boy back in the day?
Well, he was friends with my brother, so they were the cool guys. So no, Meyer was really cool. He had a mohawk in high school. And
high school we became friends. So when we got a little bit older, like in our teenage times, we were like in the same friendship circle.
But I always thought he was very cool always. So no.
With a mohawk, eh?
We need to see a photo of that mohawk sometime. Do you have one, Meyer?
All burned, I think, on my DPS. I'm just kidding. I've been looking actually for a photo like that. I don't know where it is, but yeah.
Quite a while. Fantastic.
Yeah, we've been friends since like early childhood.
Yeah. And in high school, you were just friends. There was nothing romantic or anything between you, or was there? Was there sparks flying? I'm looking at those little smiles.
I had a huge crush on Annalien, like a massive one. But, it's your best friend's sister, so it's like a no-go. You just don't go. I never broke that rule. I just stayed away. But I did have a huge crush on her. I did tell her actually once, and then she didn't feel the same.
I now tell him in hindsight that I'm glad that we didn't date or whatever it would have been back then, because probably this wouldn't have happened. So he always asks me, you know, what was the reason? What was the reason? And I mean, I myself didn't know who I was. So but I'm glad we didn't spoil it then.
So no, it never got weird. We were just good friends.
Just good
like,
friends,
yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. And then May, you went on into a career as a missionary, right? You headed off and you were doing things and
Tell us that part of the story.
So yeah, just straight out of high school, I joined an organization called Youth with a Mission, and I have a school called the Discipleship Training School. It's a 6-month program, and I did that school. And I first thought I was doing like a gap year before going to university and things like that. But then that's when the Lord just spoke to me and led me from one thing to another, where I'm still in full-time itinerant ministry. And I'm an eldership of the base now. I'm leading my own team and my own schools. So yeah, I did that like full on the last 11 years now. So you're asking where did we meet up again?
Yes, tell us.
So I was like out of Durbanville, which is the suburb where we grew up. You know, I'm in Muizenberg, I'm in Mozambique, I'm in Egypt, I'm in all sorts of places. And then was it like 2013 or 14?
12.
Oh, really? Oh, first Yaku.
Yeah.
Okay, so then her brother contacted me like out of the blue to want to hang out. And it's a longer testimony. And he was like so desperate for God. And he said, Meyer, I want to do that thing you did. I just need to get away and seek God. So he went to Worcester and he had his life completely transformed. And then he came back. And then right after that, Annalien went.
Yeah, because I saw Meyer as I knew Meyer, 18-year-old in high school, the one that I knew. And then he went away. And when I saw him again, he was completely different. I couldn't look into his eyes. He was just like totally shining and just so transformed. And I think that was like the glimmer of hope that my brother saw. And so there goes Yaku off as well, doing this thing with Wyland, came back after 6 months and exactly the same. Yaku is totally different. He's got life in his eyes. It's just a totally different person. So when my life also came to that point where I was like, okay, I need to leave certain things behind and I want to also know the Lord. That was the only kind of reference I had to seeing real change. So I was also like, I want to do this DTS thing. And Meyer, as a joke, he never thought I would actually commit to really doing it or commit really. But when I did and came back and was also changed and transformed, he was like, oh, wow. Yeah.
So then naturally we start like hanging out again because, just with common interest and just life. So me and her brother remained good friends, and then she did her DTS, came back, and then it was like high school days almost again. We're like all, hanging out again. And then it was until my 25th birthday party, right? Or was it my 24th?
25th.
Oh, 20, was it that long ago? Wow. Anyway, so so on my 23rd birthday party, I had a bribe, and then I invited Yaku and Annalien. And there was nothing with me and Annalien at that point. I wasn't dating, I was not really interested in dating at all. I didn't date girls. I didn't pursue girls really at all. But then that evening, just Annalien had this special glow on her. And I was like, wow, she's really pretty. And then, people went to bed. It was like a big sleepover. And then we stayed up and we were hanging out. And then, you first want to say something from your end before.
Yeah, come on, tell us, Annalien, we want to hear.
what Meyer meant to say was the barbecue wasn't the only thing that was smoking hot. Is that right?
And it was so funny because Jaco and I actually contemplated for an hour back and forth if we want to go. It was exactly an hour. And I always thought what would have happened if we never went that night, because as I drove home the next morning, I was like, I think I'm dating Meyer now, because we just had such a good night.
No, but you're skipping.
Okay, you can tell that one.
So yeah, so we were talking, and then I think like the Holy Spirit maybe erased this part of Annalien's mind because she can't remember this, but I, like the worst pickup line ever, I said something like, hey, I'm not like in love with you or anything like that, or even have a crush on you, but I think I can marry you. Which is like the worst thing, I think, the most, most unflirtatious thing you can say. And then her jaw just dropped because she didn't like see this coming at all. We just talked about, I was just like, yeah, like I think we've known each other our whole lives. And I know her like BC days, she knows my BC days, we know like everything. And I was like, I just think I can get married with Annalien. I just think it can work. And then I said, let's just start seeing each other and be more like intentional in that way and see like where it kind of goes. And then she said like, yes, or I'll think about it or something like that. And then, yeah. And then, yeah, that's when you said I went home and she's like, I think I'm dating Meyer. She was confused. Like,
yeah. And then was it pretty smooth sailing until the wedding, or what?
So we dated for 3 years, even knowing each other our whole lives, even quite knowing our intentions towards each other from the beginning. We did date for 3 years because I think there is just, timing and wisdom with certain things, and paving the way for yourself, that you will produce better fruit. So no, it wasn't just smooth sailing. We were living in 2 different suburbs. I was studying and working, and Meyer was doing ministry, and we would even end up doing international travels for 4 to 6 months at a time for all the 3 years. So it was almost a year in total that we didn't see each other. But yeah, I think just your intention, our intention towards each other was just to commit. And
I mean, maybe this is also something I share with dating. We're very much pro dating. Like we're not like, we did not kiss dating goodbye, that whole thing. Like I was like, when we became official, we were like, okay, I was like, okay, let's get married. Let's plan the wedding. Let's go for it. But then she was like a little bit like, whoa, you're like a little bit, let's slow down. And then, then like I was praying about it one day, and the Lord actually asked me, he says, Meyer, just, I'm kind of paraphrasing, but he was like, don't talk about marriage with Annalien. Just stop talking about marriage and just enjoy each other, just date. So I told her that. So I was like, hey, let's not have like too many marriage conversations. I did it like very wisely, not to make it sound weird. But I was like, let's not talk about marriage. Let's just like be in the moment and date. And that was actually very good. That was very healthy. Because then it just removed like expectations that you put like on each other. Because when you think about marriage, you have like expectations of how your wife needs to be, or husband needs to be, and how things needs to be ready for your lives to merge. And then you don't have that, and then you can just focus on getting to know the person. And that's when we actually really became best friends. That's when we really grew in love with each other. And then we had this long distance thing anyway, with me traveling on missions. And then like, yeah, that's when the Lord spoke to me. I was at the YWAM conference in Germany, and the Lord said, you're getting married on the 25th of November. And then I was like, okay. And then I called her, and then I just started talking about marriage again. And then she was like, okay. And then when we talked about marriage, there was just much more grace on it, and like agreement, or we just understood each other, our points of views more. So then like, yeah, like then it's like more fun and it's more exciting to dream together. So so in that sense it's all smooth sailing. But yeah, no, like, but we definitely, like, it wasn't like like, I don't know, like we're not perfect people, but I don't think either of us ever once like doubted or thought like we're making like a grave mistake or anything like that. You know, you just have this security that you can't explain. That like, yeah.
So the questions were around timing, and I love the wisdom and the progression on that, and taking the time to get to know each other, being friends, doing ministry together. I know you tried to proactively do some of that when Annalien's schedule would allow, and do a few things together to see each other where you're serving together as well. And not just, oh, it has to be a romantic cool date, but actually doing life together a bit.
Yeah, like doing life together. She getting to know my friends, and we're getting, it's like, I think it's different for everyone. Like, I have friends that got married like within 6 months and they're doing fine. But I think the point is to just discern the timing and like connect with the person and become friends with them. Like, just become, you have to marry your best friend. Just marry your best friend. And whatever time that's required, just honor the process.
Yeah.
I think with the season that you were in, I think that is very wise, that you were getting to know one another with a purpose in mind. So it wasn't just, I'm dating so that I've got a cute girl on my arm, or I'm dating so that I'm just not on my own. You knew what was in your heart, but you let it progress through the seasons of friendship. And I think that that's very wise, because sometimes, and especially with older people wanting to get married, there can be such a sense of urgency, and there can be this pressure to want to talk about marriage too soon. Why is he not talking about marriage? Why is she not agreeing it? Why is she not why is she bringing it up? And so I think just trusting that and building the friendship. And I love what you say about marrying your best friend. Linky, did that, when Meyer said, let's just get to know each other, did that just take pressure off you? Did you feel good about that at that season?
Yeah, definitely. I think it almost felt like a tree that had to grow in order to bear fruit. And to, as we say, a tree isn't, it naturally just grows and bear fruit. So I think maybe the tree was a bit smaller, and telling it to produce certain fruits, it wasn't right. So I think I really feel that the 3 years of dating versus the 3 years of marriage, I'm experiencing so much fruit that was very much cultivated in those 3 years, because it wasn't always easy. I remember I was crying a lot and just as a girl figuring out stuff with the Lord. But yeah, I do. It definitely did take pressure off. You should just know where you're at. You should know where you are at. The person should know where he's at, and then you should know together where you're at. And I think, yes, it might have been at a stage where he was more ready, and I maybe was not. But then I kind
of shifted, and then maybe. I mean, I like I said, on the first night, I was like, I made my intentions clear, like bang, But then I didn't have like the whole word of the Lord thing. Like, I didn't tell her like, I had a vision, you're my wife. I was like, I think you can be my wife, but let's just, we're real people with real emotions and things. Let's just start seeing each other if it's a possible goal. So, and but we didn't even like, it was kind of like a code between us not to tell each other like what the Lord says about like our relationship, because like, we're all like growing in discernment, and when you're like in love and there's emotional things, it kind of like makes your discernment like wonky a little bit. So like, but like maybe like within a few months of dating, like I knew like from God, like this is the, you know, this is the one I'm going to be married. And he like confirmed many things to me. But I just wouldn't tell her.
That's wise. That's
Yeah.
wise. It's really wise. Yeah.
Like, oh, God said like, Mayor changed this, good blah. You know, we just didn't. Only until when we got engaged, we shared with each other like what Holy Spirit kind of did in our hearts about each other and things like that. So
Well, I remember after we'd been dating for a week, Lynn said to me, we were walking down the road and I was talking about our kids, our future kids. We were 19 years old. And she said, are you proposing to me? But the intention was clear. Both of us had decided we wouldn't date anybody that we weren't prepared to marry. You know,
But we'd had 10 months of getting to know each other, and both of us seeking the Lord, and then actually coming to a point on the 5th of October in Hout Bay on the top of the sand dunes. And then at that point, I think in one sense we both knew, but then it was 4 years until we got married. And granted, it was 19 to 23. We were finishing studies. He was finishing his studies, but we were ministering together and growing to know one another as we were co-laboring. And I observed the same with the two of you, of just looking for ways where you could serve and overlap and share your ministries, even the things that you were doing.
And I like your point, Linky, about, you know, there's wisdom. I think in real estate, we say there's 3 rules in real estate: location, location, location. And I think in relationships, it's regulate, regulate, regulate. And for some people, that's a month. You know, it's quick. It's super, super quick. But the more normal thing is it takes time, you know, and be careful how much you share with the other person. When Lynn and I were dating, God challenged us to go to him with stuff first before we go to each other, you know, just learning to do that and to process stuff with God and go at a reasonable pace and not pull out the spiritual card God says. I think that's wise. So well done. Yeah.
I mean, but I think it was pretty clear, like from the Lord, but we still just didn't like go there. We just focused on, maybe you want to share like basically our first date, like what happened?
Yeah, well, Meyer and I went to Bloemendal. It is where you drive up onto the mountain and then you have a view over Table Mountain. But we actually just had a little picnic. We didn't go to the fancy restaurant. We just sat in the bushes there and just spent time together. And we were just sitting in silence. And like the Lord, his presence came so strong. Well, I would say.
We didn't like pray.
No.
We didn't talk about anything revelatory. We just hanged out, you know?
Yeah, we just enjoyed each other's company, even if it was just sitting in silence together. And I would say it was more than his presence. I really experienced that he was there. He was there in the midst of us, and we just couldn't move or say anything. We were just stuck sitting there, enjoying his presence and his company with us.
Yeah. And it was quite intense. It was quite a heavy, like Annalien says, we couldn't even say anything. We were just frozen. And it was like quite long. It felt long. I don't know, long, like 20 minutes, 15 minutes. And then it like lifted. And then we both were like, whoa, like he was here, like he came. And then it happened a second time, actually in my car. I just was about to drop her off. And we were just saying goodbye. And then like, vroom, like in my car, like this heavy presence could come and we would just be frozen, like quiet. Because the holiness of God it was so intense, like we just couldn't like do anything. We couldn't move. So we'll just like sit there like and looking at each other. And then it would lift after like 15 minutes. And I've never had that happen to me, like being on a date with a girl, you know. So I was like, okay, like the Lord really has like, we have his attention. That is like really significant. But he didn't say anything, but it was like just boom. So that like it's those kind of moments where I knew like, okay, this is like really significant. And you know.
But you don't need that to know.
Yes,
Right.
that's good.
Yeah.
So,
It helps,
Annalien, it did help. Annalien, what would you say to the girls in particular that are longing to have a boyfriend, longing to be married, trying to wait for the right person that God's going to bring? What would you say to them?
Sure. Well, everyone is different, and so everyone's circumstances and lives are different. So I don't think there would be one thing that would be a message to all. And it also depends if you do believe in the Lord or not. That to me does also influence advice like this. So for believing women, I would say that that the Lord does know. He has planned your future. He's already in your future, and so He already does know it. You have to trust Him. You have to trust Him. I don't know why certain people get married at 19 and certain at a different age. We can't answer those questions, but I do believe that there is a person for each one, and that you should just press into your relationship with the Lord. He is ultimately the one that will satisfy your soul. He is ultimately the one that even if you are single for the rest of your life, you will be fulfilled if you have a relationship with Him. So I would really say, it is cliche, but to put that first, to long for that first, that deep longing, that it would be first satisfied by the Lord. Then obviously also, yes, you do want a partner in life. So what would I say? I would really just say be secure in the knowing that it will happen. That's really something I never doubted once in my mind from I was a little girl. And also, I don't know if that's really good advice, but that's something I can really say. I never doubted for a second that it will be. So to not stop trusting the Lord and to be secure, and also to not be impulsive, to not be impatient, to be patient and to trust the Lord. Yeah.
No, that's really good. And I think finding your security in the Lord first makes you a much more whole person. You're less needy. And even as Brett's done the availability index with the dial on the forehead, when somebody is overly available because there's a desperation, that is not good and healthy. So I think that's very wise, and being patient, Linky, and not just going for the first option because of a desperation that can end up in something disastrous.
Yeah.
Also to know what you want, and I'm not saying know the color of the person's eyes and the hair and that, because you can have those preferences, but it's more that I knew that I wanted to be with someone that loved and feared God above all. And once again, that sounds cliche, but really, that loved and feared God, not anything else. And then the Lord does bless you. Like, Meyer is extremely attractive to me, and I love his beautiful smile, and but those things were an added bonus. I could see him. He stood out because I knew what I wanted, and what I wanted was a man that feared the Lord. And so also yourself, you would know what you're looking for. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's good. Thank you, Linky.
So maybe we can transition to talk a little bit about now that you're married, right? Because there can be a temptation with some people to think, oh, I've got an international ministry, I'm serving God, I've just spent 5 years on my education and I need to earn money back to pay for that, and it would be logical and sensible for me to work in the area that I studied and so forth. So how's it turned out for you once you're married in terms of your collaboration, your joy, your productivity, your effectiveness together? Were there any concerns that you had, or were there any things where you thought, okay, or you see people around you say, I'm not going to get married because it'll curtail my impact for God? Do you see some of that, and how's it worked for you?
I first want to say I never had a concern about that. Like with Annalien, when it comes to the security, for me, like career stuff, like I never cared about that. Like, because I had a revelation that if I'm married, my family is my first ministry. So like, and technically my job I can do anywhere in the world. Like I can, so if she wants to be an environmental scientist, then we have to move to like Scotland, wherever. Then if the Lord is like speaking to her about that, we're praying, then why not? Just do that. I never felt I've seen that you're talking about, Brett, like you kind of box your career and then you tell the other person what they're doing and you box that, you're trying to like Lego piece it together. And it's not necessarily like that straightforward. I just think when you're married, you have to lay down your personal vision and dreams, and let Holy Spirit form a new one together. Like it's like a baby, like creating a new baby. It's like some of your DNA, her DNA, and you have to raise the baby together. And so, but I can say because I was in missions for a long time, and she's like very new, I was actually shocked, like the amount of gifting she had naturally to do like my vocation kind of things. Like for me, because I never had those expectations in there, like be a school leader with me, speak with me at like do a women's conference and I'm doing a men's conference, like that cliche. I never put those expectations in her. But when she started participating in our thing, she was so amazing, and she still is. And now we are co-leading schools together in YWAM, and we do lead outreaches together, and we do leadership meetings together, and people often comment like we balance each other out well and we flow together well. So we're very like blessed. We're very like lucky that it just worked out like that we're doing the same thing. But I've told Annalien like multiple times, like if because she started environmental management, so if she wants to like continue in that, and that's okay, like then we'll just work it out. But at the moment, we're very much like together in ministry kind of stuff. So with that, it's been quite easy. I don't know if that answers your question.
That's good.
Annalien, you were going to add?
Yeah. No, I was just going to say that, of course, if you know you want to be a nurse, for instance, you just know that's what you, and that is a part of you. I mean, the person that you date, it will be in the conversation. You'll share your dreams. I want to be a nurse, and so you choose the person. Kind of the person, how the person's lifestyle will look. For instance, I didn't have a specific thing that I grew up knowing this is what I want to be. So yes, there will definitely be people when they get married, they'll be two working adults and they'll be out the door at 8:00 and back at 6, or however it might look. But so I think even up until this day, Meyer even tells me that if you do, not that there's, I believe one specific thing might be for me, but if you do find something that is the next thing, then he also kind of said that we can go for that. So we've got it's very interesting, very interesting, but
yeah. So but there is like, I think there's still like lifestyle differences. For example, like I think your expectations of ministry in the beginning was more like teaching and preaching, but then like all the discipleship things was like very new for her. Because then suddenly I had like a list of 50 people in my life that I'm like concerned about, that I pray about, that comes to my house for coffee, for one-on-ones, and like all these things. And I think that was maybe overwhelming for you in the beginning, like kind of like being in the center of so much need of so many people. And then I've had to like protect her as well, to kind of put up some more boundaries, because I'm married now. I can't just like open my door, and I'm not like a bachelor minister. So I think that was a big adaptation as well. Like learning to be private with just like us and being like public leaders together and being different types of leaders together. So that was like I think a very big
yeah, definitely. I did like self-sacrifice came in definitely there. I knew if I was on 0 and I was on 100 in terms of having relationships and putting relationships first and really investing in people like that. It was really a concept I didn't grow up with. Social stuff was always for weekends. It was always second. It was work first. And now and it was always so intriguing for me to see Meyer. Well, he's thinking about people and praying about people and talking, and anyway, so I think if I might be on a 0 and he was on 100, he came down to 50 and I maybe came up to 50 to meet each other in the middle. I knew, okay, Annalien, I need to go with him. I need to be there. I need to be next to him. And then, but he also, like he then just said, knew, okay, maybe not every night, maybe every second night, or you learn. And sometimes I would freak out and I didn't even know what's wrong. And then I would sit with the Lord and say, what just happened? And then, oh, okay, I'm actually just overwhelmed or it's a bit too much. And then we would communicate. So you're really you're learning so much about yourself as well as you are living together and as you live together. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that scripture, husbands, live considerately with your wives, like scale back to every second night having a crowd of people over in your living room. Yeah, and those are some of the adjustments. I think some people say, well, this is my ministry, this is my business even, I'm the CEO or I'm the head of the ministry, so that's the way it is and you have to adapt versus, and then you lose out, right? Because then you can get resentful, you come to hate what the other person's doing.
Yeah, and it would be a shame if you're like, pouring into people's lives and their destinies and mentoring them, giving them prophetic words, but your wife at home is not being sustained with her needs. So that's like that's not a good order, so it's just to like have that healthy order of that.
Yeah.
And that's where she's a good champ, where she also learned like, okay, Meyer, but okay, God, this is Meyer's calling, and I'm different than all those people. Like I've compartmentalized emotionally to what my wife is and how I carry her versus like students and leaders on the base, things like that. So yeah, it's a good process, and I'm sure it'll be different with children as well. Like, you don't want to like have all these spiritual children that are thriving revivalists, but then your kids back home. So that's something that I've been quite strong on from the beginning, because it's honestly something that I've observed myself, unfortunately, in ministry. So yeah.
And that does give me a lot of security and rest. Not just knowing that is how his heart is and what he believes, but also I see it. It's in his actions as well. So that to me is very reassuring, very, very reassuring. Being married with someone that gives so much of himself, not necessarily to a screen or to a job, but to people, to relationships, and so you know that it's very, very secure.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's good. Yeah.
Because Annalien is a people person, much more than I think she would represent herself. Like she's very like gifted, pastorally. Like she's amazing. But I think we all have different capacity levels and how we can serve. So it's just like adjusting on each other's capacity and like honoring that as well. So because I have a high capacity, people might be like, oh, Mary's the people person and she's like the introvert. But no, she loves people. She does. But it's just creating a structure how we do that together. Just like I'm sure you guys had to figure that out as well.
Yeah. Lynn is a flaming extrovert. And that's right. She's having a little trouble with lockdown,
I live in the woods of Tennessee. The only people I'm seeing currently are my physical therapist after having broken my hip. And Brett, fortunately, I like him because we've gone for months and months and months and months just seeing each other and waving at our neighbors as they drive past. And a few occasional people popping in, but yeah.
Yeah, so I really think it is important to make those adjustments. And then also, I know in the Lemon Leadership Model, we found some people who are networkers, but they're introverts. So they actually are wired as networkers, but they're introverts. They just don't want to connect with 50 people at once all of the time, but they do love connecting with people. And I know that Linky is wonderful in terms of asking questions and relating to people and so on. But some people like to do that in a crowd, and some people like to do it more when they leave a situation. If you've talked to 50 people, Meyer, a quick conversation, you feel great. And if Annalien has talked in depth to 2 people, she goes home and she said, okay, that was a good conversation. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm just reminded of what Brett's mom shared early on in our marriage, or at some point, and she said that often the thing that most attracts you to somebody can actually be the thing that causes you stress later in your marriage. And so she said that what she was so amazed by Brett's dad was his massive heart for people and his compassion for the poor and the needy, and
generosity.
His generosity. But then later, as they got married, and he was picking up people from the side of the street and bringing them home and giving away everything that they had and walking in front of the meter maid, putting money in the parking meters so that nobody got a parking ticket. And then you're dealing with this person with this very strong gift of crazy generosity for the poor, and then you're in your own family and everything's been given out of the door, So I think that's also interesting, what attracts you to somebody, and then you also if you look at the lemon model, I had no idea, because Brett hadn't written the book, that he was a luminary, but I used to find him so fascinating and so interesting in all his ideas. And then you marry someone and you find, wow,
all
there's
these ideas.
Never-ending number of ideas and new ideas. I mean, I can't even keep up with the books he's writing. I'm like lagging behind.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think you can be fully who you are, but you're not alone anymore. So now, if you want to be a person that lives alone, then you can be just fully, 100% yourself. But if you are in a relationship, you will make sacrifices. You will do it. And it's not at the compromise of who you are, but it is, it's just living with someone. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. But if I can maybe say something, if we go back one step, your question with Annalien, like women wanting to get married, but my observation of Annalien that probably aided to her success to get married, we can say like that. And it's something I've encouraging other women as well. Like Annalien always had guy friends growing up, like I said, in our teenage days. Like guy friends, and even though I had a crush on her in my teenage years, she's like, hey, it's not gonna work. And she put up a boundary, and it didn't make it weird. We just stayed friends. And even like after high school, like Annalien had guy friends, and I think like that helped her be like so secure. And it kind of like, I think it gave her like some understanding as well, as a little bit from like a dude's brain, a little bit.
Yeah.
And that requires quite something to understand a dude's brain.
I mean, she had a brother as well, so you can say that kind of helped. But,
Definitely.
but I think like, my encouragement is for a lot of Christian girls is just, if you want to get married, just get guy friends. Just start by making friends with the opposite gender. And when it's not weird, you don't have to like anticipate intention or judge intentions constantly. having guards up and things. Just friend zone 3 guys, you know?
Yeah.
And where you can have like normal, like clean relationship with guys, and there's no sexual or romantic intent. And then you can kind of know like how guys are a little bit wired. And then if you like a guy, your guy friends are probably the most honest people with a review. The girls are usually like, wow, you guys would be perfect for each other and like all these things. But the guys would just speak their mind if they like the guy or not, you know?
Yeah.
And I've noticed that with Annalien, like I think that was really like her strength as well.
Mm.
And I've noticed something I've noticed in the church, like there's not that much friendship in the opposite genders, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So it's something
yeah.
that I encourage a lot, is friendship with opposite genders. Yeah.
Yeah. We noticed years ago, the girls would hang out in America. They call them in posses, you know, like you'd get the posses, like in the cowboy movies. And it's very hard for the guys to break into the posse, because if there's 6 girls in a posse and you only like one, then you also have the silver bullet. You can take one shot into the posse. After that, the whole posse is off limits for about a year. I mean, you can't take a second shot into the posse. And so it becomes complicated. But if you do have more of these balanced friendships, then it kind of breaks up the posse a little bit.
Yeah, and it's like women that are like in their 30s that really want to get married, I just tell them, ban girls' nights. Just ban it. Make it like a fast under the door. No girls' nights. Like every get together, just if you have girlfriends, invite their married men, and then and then their husbands come. But just start, and then they might bring a guy friend or something with. You know?
Yeah.
Guys as well. Sometimes they just want to like just do things with guys, sports events, bars, hunting, this and that. And I'm like, no, just hang out with them, do hiking, other things with them.
This is where hospitality comes in. And I want to encourage any married people that are listening, that married people actually have a role to play in opening up their homes and providing a place where other single people can come in an area where it's just relaxed. So once one's married, don't just start hanging with other married couples. Oh, we've just moved now into the married couple zone, because I think there's such an importance and a responsibility for families to open up their lives and their families and their backyard and inviting different singles, because just by the fact that they're couples and children, it makes a much more relaxed environment. It's not so awkward. You don't have single people standing around wondering whatever, and that you actually become what I call a hub person. You do that, and then the spokes of the wheels come together, and you provide opportunities for natural relationship to occur. And then you don't have this funny bunch of singles together. It doesn't mean that singles can't get together, but I don't want people, once they're married, to wipe the sweat off their brow and go, phew, and then suddenly no longer care for singles.
Right.
I'm passionate about this. I could do a whole hour.
No, Lynn actually said to the singles in San Francisco once when we were living there, look, I'm going to stop praying that you guys get married, because once you're married, it's like you give yourself a free pass. Now we're married. We don't have to go on mission trips. We don't have to do this, because now we're married, as if it's a destination. And so I love the way that you guys have been more intentional about doing stuff together, rather than saying, okay, sorted, we're married. Now we get, these people who say you got a free ticket for the first year and everything, we're not so keen on that.
No, well, maybe there is a focus and a concentration on each other. But I still think
for a little bit.
Yeah, for a little bit. But
we actually decided we had a 700 square foot house, a 70 square meter house in Hart Bay when we got married, 2 bedrooms. And I said, we'd had so many kids from youth group and church and Sunday school and everything around us. Okay, for the first year, the Bible says no going to war for the first year. So I'm going to put a big desk in there, and it's going to be my study. It's not going to be a spare room. And God convicted both of us. And I think 3 or 4 weeks after we got married, the first person moved in. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think that's like outside of our bread, like what do nothing when you're married. Like I think, yeah, we became more adventurous by getting married.
I think even friendships became very important to me afterwards, because I think being a married woman, I still need girlfriends, and you know, spending time with my best friend or doing something as girls, even though I can do that with him, like go to the beach and have pizza. It's different, and I think I think it's good that you still have friends, and so not to go into that bubble, but to continue to pursue relationships for yourself and the other person for himself, and then pursue relationships together as well, with married couples, with older people, with younger people. We believe that relationship was very important to me once I got married.
I've seen that as well. Like when people get married, like it's as if the single people put them in the married bubble, and then they sometimes feel rejected. They don't get invited to things because we think, oh, they're married, they're busy, or they have each other, or things.
You're
like
right.
that.
It's the other way around as well.
You know, I mean, we're privileged. I think the culture around our community is like a lot of married couples, and everyone's friends with everyone. But yeah, I relate with Annalien, like being married, like I had to actually be more intentional with time with friends. Well, before it was like whenever, like anytime I can hang out with Ruan. But now I have to like plan my social times to meet with my friends, because I realized what need I had in that as well.
So just summing up some of the things I've heard, Lynn, as we've heard. One is you were deliberate from the beginning, but the paradox is you had a clear intention. I could marry you, but then you had to balance that without being super spiritual or creepy, right? God says you must marry me. So you have to kind of create space to be both, if you like, supernatural and natural at the same time.
Well, I mean, I think the God stuff, I had that, but even though I hid that very well, it was my planning futurist side that I had to shut down.
Yeah.
Where you're like, constantly, figuring out like little things. And that, like, because you want to get married and then you have, life needs to go forward. And then that can create a unnecessary pressure and expectations in each other, because it takes emotional energy to plan a wedding and to plan a life together. And I was just like, oh, let's go for this, like let's just get married, So because I just stopped all of that, basically, and not because of the word of the Lord, because I was just like, why date? We kind of know, like, let's just do it. Just to give some more time to get to know each other, and then like the figuring out life things will come in time.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I noticed when we knew you in your pre-married days, Annalien, was for you also to grow in your identity so that you would be comfortable being married to this man, right? And we had some good conversations about the fact that it's not like Meyer 90%, Linky 10%, but this is going to be 100%, 100%, 50-50 partnership together. And for you to be, I'm not saying this was in Meyer's head, I'm just saying in your own heart and mind to say, okay, yeah, this is what I have to contribute. This is how we work well together. And that takes time, as you say, for that tree to grow into fruitfulness. So it's good that you took the time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. And you do discover, I very much discovered more about myself, how I work, how I function. Of course, your tools helped greatly, Brett, but for those that might not have some of the amazing tools that you have, it is a journey. And my advice would also be to just be kind to yourself, be gracious towards yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself. Have grace and patience towards yourself. Be humble. Don't expect that you are supposed to be this person that has got everything figured out. That's not how it works. Know where you're at. And I do believe one thing that was also just extremely attractive to me was just the security. He knew who he was. And then he chose me, coming back to that thing about the word of the Lord. It would have been amazing to hear that, but actually what I'm hearing then is God chose me for you, which is amazing. But to hear him say, I am choosing you, I am. We are made in the image of God. We are given free will. We're the only beings in creation that has free will. And if a man chooses with his free will to choose a woman, that's very powerful. And then when the going gets rough, it falls back on your decision, what you decide, rather than the word, which, like I say, we had the word, but like you just said, the supernatural and the natural part together. So, so once again, advice would be to discover who you are. Yeah.
And I also think combining the supernatural and natural, especially when you're dating and you want to get married, just be honest. Don't be spiritual. Be honest. If you have a spiritual conversation, I think I got a verse about this or something like that, just be honest about your doubts, just be transparent, just be honest. I was honest at times with Annalien, and because then that's what the word of the Lord card thing does. You're like, well, God said it, and then you believe everything's just gonna go perfect from there. But yeah, just be really honest in the process, and then just choose. You have to keep making decisions. You have to choose each other. We chose each other multiple times until we got married. So, but in the process of that is being honest, because if you're honest, then everything is clear. I've shown all my cards to her. I'm very clear. She shows me everything. Everything's clear, and then you're both empowered to make a decision.
Right. Yeah. So what, the title of this thing is really that, marriage is a choice, and it's a choosing. It's a choice that we make. The over-spiritualization, the people who want God to make the choice for them. Well, he doesn't even do that in our relationship with him. He says, look, I am God. This is who I am. These are my intentions. Make a decision, choose this day. We get to choose. And it's such a powerful thing, such an empowering thing. God isn't forcing us. And as you say, Mary, then there's the ongoing choosing. I've had men who've been married 20 years, 30 years, and they're re-choosing. And it's just such a powerful thing, such an expression of God giving us a free will and us being made in God's image, God having chosen us, but not also forcing himself, saying, I'm omnipotent, I'm omniscient, everything, therefore you have to respond. No. There's always this choice. Such a lovely thing, just seeing the way you expressed it about the choice, both of you being a powerful thing.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to the foundations of love. Love is a choice. Jesus chose to lay down his life for us, for our sins. And the Bible says to draw near to God, and he will draw near to us. So obviously God's in us and he's around us. But when we choose to pursue him, he's revealed to us more, and we see him more clearly. And it's the same in the marriage. We are in a covenant, we are married, we wear a ring, but we can sit next to each other, but we can be far away from each other as well. But if you choose each other, you're drawing near to each other and you're getting to know each other deeper, and then the intimacy grows like that as well. Same with God. There's nudges and things like that, but at the end of the day, it's a choice and nothing can be forced. Yeah.
Great. Well, I think that about wraps it up for this session. Thank you so much to Annalien, to Meyer. It's been a delight for Lynn and I to know you guys over the years and up close and personal. And so delighted that you guys have a heart for God, a heart for each other, compassion, openness for other people, and that you were seeking first the kingdom before you got married, and that's what you've been doing since you got married, and that's what the kingdom marriage is about. It's not about just the two of you with each other, but the lovely mix that you have of being concerned for each other, living considerately with each other, living openly with each other, and living outwards. It's not an either or. So we love to see that with you.
So thank you so much for being on our podcast and sharing your wisdom and sharing your story with us. And we're very grateful to have had you. So blessings on your next year of your married life and the next season.
You can invite us for part 2 anytime.
We will book you for part 2.
That would be wonderful.
Thank you, Brett, and then we're very grateful for this opportunity. We're grateful for you guys. You guys are key figures in our lives. And we really love you. And we hope for things to open up again so you can come back home, your real home, South Africa.
We can't wait.
Yeah.
And, you can have some great South African wine together.